Today on Investigate TV Plus, trees growing dangerously close to power lines, causing outages and even sparking fires. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. Our investigation uncovers a patchwork of responsibility for clearing this hazard, and we explore the work to resolve the confusion. Plus, a new medication offers some patients with Alzheimer's disease and their families a precious gift.
And if we have more time together, make more memories, and that's the goal. You know, we have hope.
We take a look at one man's experience on this breakthrough drug and why doctors believe it could be a gateway for future treatments.
And being Bobby.
Hey! Hi, man. How are you?
A community is moved by one man's dedication to helping others and inspired by his philosophy on life.
He's got swag, what can I say?
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus.
On August 14, 2003, a blackout in 8 states and part of Canada left more than 50 million people in the dark. Nearly 100 deaths were attributed to the outage, and the overall cost was as much as $6 billion, with some estimates even higher.
New York City was in the dark for 29 hours, and other communities went up to 4 days without power. Officials with First Energy in Ohio would later say the outage was caused by an overgrown tree coming into contact with a transmission line. Trees and other plants cause a large number of major power outages every year by either growing into electrical equipment or falling across lines because of bad weather.
The problem for many homeowners, however, is what happens before the storm. Investigative reporter Carice Jackman found there's often conflict over who's in charge of taking care of the hazard that can leave customers powerless.
Walking through her old backyard in Detroit, Michigan, Edith Lee Payne has fond family memories, but also heartbreaking ones, especially when she thinks of the fire that uprooted her life 20 years ago.
It's overwhelming, it's disappointing, and it's frightening.
The fire sparked in July 2003. A state fire marshal's report shows it was from a short circuit. Lee Payne says the fire started because trees came down on power lines and claims her utility company, DTE Energy, failed to remove dead trees near her home.
So during a line clearance cycle in 2001, they left 6 dead trees. Because they left the dead trees back there, one of the 6 fell onto their service drop that services this house and caused a power surge, started an electrical fire.
But DTE's website shows service drops, those lines going to a home, are a customer's responsibility. While insurance paid for some of the damage, Lee Payne had to dip into life savings to pay for the rest. She's taken DTE to court, where a judge said the fire was unfortunate, but that the power company didn't do anything wrong, and that the responsibility to clear lines that run to the home is the customer's. Then in 2022, almost unbelievably, she had another fire. Another one, she says, was caused by a power issue, this time a surge. Though the energy company says it has no evidence of an equipment issue on their end.
I need your help. I don't want any other excuses.
Payne expressed her concerns multiple times to DTE Energy and the Michigan Public Service Commission before and after the fires. The commission denied Lee Payne's claims, but her story highlights the confusion when it comes to who's responsible for trees near power lines. Dan Scripps is the chair of the Michigan Public Service Commission. They regulate Lee Payne's utility company and several others in the state.
And there are parts of our system, particularly in the Detroit area. You know, it's an old system. There are challenges with some of the backlots or alleyway systems where the city a long time ago sort of gave up those alleys to the residents, and as a result, you've seen not a lot of vegetation management.
Professor Lawrence Kahn developed the Tulane Utility Vegetation Management Initiative, a project training the next generation of attorneys at Tulane University in New Orleans.
If a tree comes into contact with a utility line, there are some significant problems that can occur. Even if you're taking very good care of your trees, who's to say your neighbor is taking equally good care of your neighbor's trees? And the answer is You can't have that kind of confidence without knowing your neighbors very well. Beyond that, if a tree comes into contact with a utility line, there are some significant problems that can occur. If you've ever been in a situation where you don't have power at home, chances are it's because a tree came into contact with a power line.
And in a survey done by the University of Wisconsin-Stevens, utility companies themselves reported that on average, nearly a quarter of all outages in 2019 were attributable to vegetation. And vegetation management has been noted by several federal officials as a strategy to improve grid resiliency.
Do you think there should be more accountability when it comes to utility companies ensuring that they're watching vegetation management?
They're already accountable.
And vegetation management has been noted by several federal officials as a strategy to improve grid resiliency.
The question is, who's enforcing that?
Enforcement isn't uniform across the country. Major utilities are subject to federal standards, requiring things like annual inspections and documented plans to ensure lines are kept clear. Otherwise, utilities are regulated at the state level, meaning requirements can vary state by state.
Michigan has a different system than Arizona, for example, where there are much fewer trees. They have less of a problem with ice than we do. We also get fewer hurricanes than Texas does or Florida does. And so some of those regional differences ultimately lead to different approaches.
For Lee Payne, she won't stop fighting until she sees power companies take more responsibility for clearing all trees from all power lines and stop people from feeling powerless.
I don't want to see anybody else lose any property as I have and other people have.
Tree power line conflicts continue to be a topic of conversation in Washington, D.C. The Department of Energy says they currently have 2 funding programs under the bipartisan infrastructure law to help increase vegetation management.
Still to come, silencing snoring, how a small implant can help control the nightmare of sleep apnea and allow patients to rest easier.
But first, a new drug for the early stages of dementia is helping patients and their families make new memories. We take a look at one man's experience with lecanemab and speak with the doctors making strides in the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime online. Just subscribe to our YouTube channel at Investigate TV. You can catch stories and full episodes.
Right now, more than 6 million Americans are living with Alzheimer's disease. By 2060, the CDC projects the number will nearly triple to 14 million people. As Alzheimer's slowly takes away a patient's memory, neurologists say they often deal with an array of emotions, shifting from fear to anxiety to dread.
It's painful for a loved one to watch someone with Alzheimer's, but in the summer of 2023, the FDA approved a drug that's offering hope for people with mild to early stage forms of this disease.
Reporter John Huck shows us how lecanemab is helping one patient hold on to memories while creating new ones.
Dan Harrington will be the first to tell you his memory is not what it used to be.
Is to not be able to remember something when you just told me 2 minutes ago. I was never like that.
But Dan's lapses aren't just a normal part of getting older. In 2017, doctors diagnosed him with mild cognitive impairment, or MCI. MCI happens when you have a slight but noticeable decline in your mental abilities like memory, language, attention, or complex planning. Mild cognitive impairment can have several possible causes. Some are treatable and others aren't. For Dan, his MCI was a precursor to Alzheimer's disease.
It's just a matter of being able to remember. That's what gets to me is the most frustrating thing.
But Dan and his wife Andrea channeled his frustration into fight. The Harringtons moved to Nevada and settled in Las Vegas so Dan could begin treatment at the Cleveland Clinic Lou Ruvo Center for Brain Health. In November of 2023, Dan became the first patient at the Lou Ruvo Center to receive lecanemab in a clinical setting. After his first treatment, Andrea noticed changes in her husband.
When he started the lecanemab, there's a difference in his demeanor. He's more calm. I noticed that right away.
Doctors say there are side effects of lecanemab, as mild as dizziness and as serious as brain swelling and bleeding. Dan says he hasn't experienced any of those. He's only seen the benefits so far.
Well, for me, it's like I'm clear. My mind's clear.
A clearing of the mind is the intent of lecanemab. These are the brain scans of other patients who have Alzheimer's and were administered lecanemab in clinical trials. Red and orange are the sticky protein called amyloid plaque that builds up in the brain, one of the hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. Neurologist Dr. Dylan Wint says each patient saw a reduction of the amyloid over a 2-year period, some more dramatic than others.
What I understand from lecanemab is that it halts the progression but doesn't turn back the disease. It seems I'm seeing here that it is being turned back, that the plaque is reducing.
That's a great question. So the disease is not just the presence of plaque. It's the presence of plaque, it's presence of other abnormal proteins called neurofibrillary tangles, and also importantly, it's the presence of cognitive dysfunction and progressive decline in cognitive abilities. So this is another tool. It's not a cure, but it's another tool, a very important tool because it's the first disease-modifying type of drug, the anti-amyloid antibodies, that actually have an effect on what's going on biologically in the brain, not just on symptoms.
In the meantime, Dan will continue receiving biweekly infusions of medication as long as he and his care team see fit. The Harringtons understand the uncertainty and promise ahead.
If we have more time together, make more memories, and that's the goal. You know, we have hope.
Don't give up. Don't give up, because it definitely helps.
Currently, the Cleveland Clinic is treating roughly 90 patients throughout its health system with lecanemab, and there continues to be more progress in the treatment of Alzheimer's. In July 2024, the FDA approved a second treatment for patients with mild cognitive impairment or early-stage dementia. The drug, donanemab, will be sold under the brand name Kinsula. Like lecanemab, Kinsula is said to reduce the buildup of plaque in the brain. In Las Vegas, I'm John Huck.
Doctors at the Cleveland Clinic Lou Ruvo Center for Brain Health emphasize the importance of clinical trials in the treatment of Alzheimer's disease and other neurological conditions.
Currently, a trial is taking place involving the use of lecanemab in people who are not yet showing noticeable symptoms of Alzheimer's, but have a family history or mild memory loss. The AHEAD study started in 2023 and is expected to last 5 years. Cleveland Clinic neurologist Dr. Charles Bernick says the results from the AHEAD study could give doctors a new advantage in treating the disease.
A person who may have a risk of Alzheimer's disease, family history, age, minor symptoms they see in themselves, will be tested. And if they have evidence that the disease is beginning, they would be treated at that point. I think the information from that study may change our entire approach to treating Alzheimer's disease. Clinical trials are really the only way to advance science. People can see what's available in their area by going to clinicaltrials.gov.
Once again, lecanemab is not a cure for Alzheimer's, but a treatment that addresses symptoms for people in the early stages of the disease. A Vermont man inspires gratitude.
The world and our community are better because of Bobby.
Still to come, how his decades of volunteer work caught the attention of a world leader. But first, snoring is not only a nightmare, it's also the sign of a serious health condition. We check out a new treatment helping patients and their partners get their Z's.
Our in-depth coverage continues. You can get connected to Investigate TV Plus on all social media platforms.
Does your partner's loud snoring keep you up at night?
We're not going to talk about that, are we?
No, we're not.
Okay, we're not. We're going to move on. Other than annoying, snoring could be a sign of a serious sleep disorder called obstructive sleep apnea, or OSA. OSA is characterized by loud snoring followed by a few seconds of quiet because of a pause in breathing. Eventually, this reduction or pause may signal someone to wake up, and they may awaken with a loud snort or gasping sound. Also, people with sleep apnea might feel drowsy or nap during the day.
Doctors consider continuous positive airway pressure, or CPAP, the standard treatment for moderate to severe cases of OSA. But some patients get claustrophobic and simply can't adjust to the machine.
Reporter Carrie Beal shows us a CPAP alternative, helping patients breathe easier and get a good night's rest.
So I feel good this morning. I felt good coming in. It's such a beautiful day.
Al Pierce says he feels great because he's been getting a good night's sleep.
And anyone that suffers from sleep apnea or obstructive sleep apnea will know that it's a terrible feeling every morning. You're mid-morning, you need a nap. You have lunch, you need another nap, and all that's gone.
He says he's been sleeping well thanks to this device. It helps treat his sleep apnea.
No one knows the device is really there, and actually don't even see it. It's barely visible.
Pierce was one of the first patients in a clinical trial for the device, and now it's FDA approved to the public.
It's a little device similar to a pacemaker that is controlled with a remote.
Newberry ear, nose, and throat doctor Wayne Harsha says when people with sleep apnea sleep, their tongue and jaw relaxes, which can block the airway.
What Inspire does is it takes a nerve here that gives supply to those muscles, and when that electrode fires, it lifts all of these muscles forward and opens up the airway.
Dr. Harsha says it usually takes about 2 hours to implant the device, and studies are showing really good results.
In general, about an 80% reduction in the sleep apnea index that patients have on sleep study. Often, too, they will survey bed partners, and bed partners actually indicate that about 88% of people will have complete stopping of their snoring and their sleep apnea symptoms.
After a month, Pierce says he was able to return to his life as normal.
You will have some minor pain for a few days, which is generally controlled with over-the-counter meds. And there's a healing process, obviously, because you'll have 2 incisions.
When he drives, he no longer has to take naps. And when he's awake, he feels alive.
I'm 74 now, which sounds like, guys, that's an old man. But I don't feel that way. I still play ball with my grandson. We'll play some when I get back tonight, maybe. And we'll play catch or whatever.
There are a few things to know about this implant. Inspire is only for those 18 and older with a BMI of 40 or less, and side effects can include tongue weakness. But the doctor we spoke to says that's usually temporary. The battery life usually is 10 to 12 years. You'll need to prove a CPAP machine hasn't worked for you before you qualify for Inspire. But it's smart to check with your doctor or insurance company, including Medicare, regarding coverage. Without any insurance, the National Council on Aging says the cost of the implant ranges from $30,000 to $40,000. In Greenville, South Carolina, I'm Carrie Beal.
Excess weight is the biggest risk factor for sleep apnea. Sleep specialists say significant weight loss can help ease sleep apnea symptoms, but it doesn't guarantee sleep apnea will go away.
Up next, giving his time and himself. A man inspires his community and the president with his years of service. You can watch Investigate TV Plus anytime streaming online. Get the app for Roku, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. They're free to download. How do you measure success? Some would say it's awards, assets, and rankings.
But for a Vermont man, it's not how much he makes, but how much he gives. Reporter Joe Carroll introduces us to Bobby Paquette.
In Rutland, voices of admiration echo throughout the city.
He touches lives, and I think, don't we all want that?
The world and our community are better because of Bobby.
Love him. Love him.
It's all for Bobby Paquette,
Hi. How are you?
Ask anyone in town who's the most dedicated volunteer.
Great.
Bobby's name likely will be leading the list.
I like to help out other people.
Relay for Life 2024.
In June, Bobby turned 70. He celebrated by volunteering at the Relay for Life.
This is our opportunity to show cancer that we are not going to back down.
The annual event held at the Rutland Fairground is to raise awareness and money to fight cancer. Bobby walks with others to honor those who have survived the disease and those who have not.
I like to volunteer with people that had cancer to find a cure for cancer. Ticket? Would you like some?
Bobby's also the money man.
$1 ticket.
People purchase tickets and put it in the bag of the gift they want to win.
Yeah, we mix them up.
A drawing determines the winner. This is just one of the many organizations that Bobby volunteers his time.
Go right with Bobby, he'll seat you.
Every year, Bobby dons an elf hat and helps out at the Gift of Life blood drive. His time helping others goes way back.
School was hard for you?
Yeah, I just went far as 8th grade.
8th grade?
Yeah, they were pushing me through stuff like that, and I said no.
Donna Toller went to elementary school with Bobby.
I'm proud of you.
She knew of his learning struggles.
Yes, but that made us better.
Made you better.
It made me better because even though he had a learning disability, he still showed us love and kindness.
Many people measure success by the type of car you drive or the college you attended. Bobby has neither, but he might be the richest man in Rutland.
Angie Rivers would agree.
I said to him, I trust you with my whole heart. That's what I told him.
And his volunteering has been noticed.
This is from the president.
Of the United States?
Yes.
It's the President's Volunteer Service Award for his years of service.
And he deserves that medal.
A humble man
He's got swag, what can I say?
who says little.
Yeah, thank you.
His actions speak for itself.
You're a celebrity.
He is admired by so many, just a top volunteer and has the medal to prove it.
That's impressive, getting a medal
Yes.
from the president for his work. Very impressive. All right, that's it for us on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm T. Chappelle. Thanks for watching.
On the next Investigate TV Plus, construction workers are in short supply, and experts say new talent is hard to find.
We need the people to work because we need to not only build America's infrastructure, but we have to rebuild it.
We take a look at the efforts to replenish the field and how this labor shortage could affect your community.